Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel with another video for you guys here today. We have to talk about the Titanic matchup that's set to take place Sunday afternoon in the America's Game of the Week time slot on Fox as the Dallas Cowboys at 5-2 travel to Philadelphia to take on the 7-1 Eagles. It is going to be a fun game, arguably the game of the year. There's huge implications not only for the NFC East, but the entire NFC as a whole. We're going to get through all of that in today's video. Now, before we get any further, if you could do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell. It helps support the channel, fight against the YouTube algorithm. So thank you so much for the love and support. Now, let's talk about this matchup. Now, when I say that this is the game of the year in the National Football League, I don't mince words when I say that. I have a lot of ammunition to prove that point. You have the fact of the matter being that both of these teams are coming in with fantastic records. One team having the best record in the National Football League in the Eagles at 7-1, Dallas at 5-2. Then you talk about from a statistical standpoint how these teams are producing, and they're doing very well for themselves. Of course, both teams have weaknesses that we'll talk about, but still, they're doing very well for themselves, and they're finding ways to win football games. Then you talk about the significance of this matchup and what a win could do for these teams and a loss can do for these teams. Very much so a big game nonetheless. So I want to first start off with talking about the significance of this game for you to grasp why this is important for both teams. So we're going to start off with the Eagles side of things. So they are coming into this matchup at 7-1, and they want to try and get a stranglehold on the NFC East by beating Dallas this week. You know, you're 2-0 in the division. You want to try to get the 3-0, but more importantly, it's about what you have coming up. Now, as I take a look at their schedule, you take on the Cowboys, of course, this Sunday. Then you have your bye week. Kansas City on the road, Monday Night Football. You then go home for 2 home games for Buffalo and San Francisco. And then you take on the Cowboys once again on Sunday Night Football, this time in Arlington. That's a tough stretch of games. I'm not saying they're going to lose all these games or win all these games. Of course, the NFL's any given Sunday, but that's a tough stretch of games. So with a win getting to 8-1 and a tiebreaker over Dallas, that gives you a lot more wiggle room to where if you stumble in this stretch of games, you can breathe at least. However, what happens if you lose? Let's take a look at what the Cowboys have going for them. Okay, so the Cowboys, they don't have a bye week, but they have the Eagles, of course, the Giants at home, the Panthers on the road. You then have Thanksgiving versus Washington, and then you play Seattle as the next Thursday night game, and then you take on the Eagles once again on Sunday Night Football. So when I look at these stretch of games, looking at how the Cowboys are looking, I think they'll take care of business versus the Giants. I think they'll beat the Panthers. And given with what Washington has done, I think that in a hard-fought battle, they'll beat the Commanders. And I do think that they'll be able to maybe, just maybe, beat Seattle given how things are going. Typically how it works is that if the Cowboys win on Thanksgiving, they'll win the following game. If I think they're going to win on Thanksgiving versus Washington, I think they'll win the next game. That's just how things have been. And then you look at the Eagles side of things, and let's just say that they do lose this game to the Cowboys, and I think they'll lose versus the Chiefs. I think they'll be able to beat the Bills, but I have a sneaky suspicion that they should be able to beat the 49ers, but let's just say for this experiment they lose to one of those teams, specifically the 49ers, which would be a huge game for tiebreaker purposes. And then you go into the next Sunday game, you have Dallas at 10-2, and then the Eagles at 8-4, and then if Dallas were to then win in that matchup, the Eagles would be 8-5 and the Cowboys would be 11-2 on the precipice of winning the NFC East. But if the Eagles do somehow manage to beat the Cowboys this Sunday, it gives you a little bit more of a, okay, you know, maybe we don't beat them this go around, but if we can just, you know, hold things down, maybe, just maybe, we can at least stay in the same lane. So that's why this is an important game for both teams. Now, as for what to expect, Man, this feels like a huge game for Dallas, and people will argue who has the most pressure. You can say Philadelphia does because of what's coming up down the road, and I would agree. To me, everyone's saying that the Cowboys have no chance in this game, or if they do have a chance, it's slim because the Eagles are a far better team. That's just what I've been hearing through media and everything else, unless I've been listening to the wrong people, but that's what I've been given the expectation is the Cowboys have no chance. They're an underdog in this game by 3 points. And, can the Cowboys pull off the upset? Yeah, they can. The Eagles are 26th in the National Football League for preventing third down conversions. On top of that, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, who are 4th in the National Football League in converting third downs. And then you talk about this Eagles passing attack, or rather their passing attack defense, and it's 26th in the NFL. And look, man, I just think that the key thing that's going to come down to this is the Cowboys keeping the Eagles out of 3rd and short or 4th and short, and as well of the fact being, you keep that offense off the field. You continue to convert third downs, you score points, and put pressure on that offense to do things. A.J. Brown's been on a tear. There's no question about it. But I think I'm more so concerned about other dudes stepping up because the Cowboys will probably try to stop A.J. Brown. On top of that, you have this run game of Philly that can be dangerous with, Swift. And on top of that, you do have Jalen Hurts who can run the ball. I think it's going to very much so be... I don't think it's going to be a high-score game. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that typically when the Cowboys play the Eagles, especially in Philadelphia, it's always a hard-nosed game, very defensive game. And the Cowboys have done a fantastic job of getting off the field in 4th down situations. They're 4th in the National Football League as well in stopping third down conversions. So the way that I look at this is, what's the game plan for the Cowboys? Don't try to establish the run. If the Cowboys go into the same game plan that they had versus the 49ers, where they're trying to run the ball or establish the run and not allowing Dak Prescott to do his thing, you're going to have a long day. You're going to be playing into the Eagles' hand because you're scared and you don't want to risk things. No, you need to come into this, and I don't care what you have to do to win this game, but you need to do everything possible to get this W. It ain't going to be easy, but with a Cowboys victory in Philadelphia, a lot of people are like, oh, can the Cowboys beat a really good team? And if you lose this game, people will look at you and be like, all right, well, you're good, but you're not good or great. If you win, you put a lot of people like, oh, wait, hold on. Maybe the Cowboys are really good. And so I'm looking for the Cowboys to, on the offensive side of the ball, use West Coast principles, use your passing game in the short to intermediate realm as an extension of your run game, let Dak Prescott cook. And I don't think Dak Prescott's going to have a clean game. I think that he'll have a turnover in this game. But again, that's with the expectation you're giving him a higher volume of plays for him to throw the football, and put the ball in his hands. As for Jalen Hurts, he has had a turnover issue. I understand that the Jets game hyperinflated his turnovers, but still, it's something that's there. I think that the key thing is that if he gives you a turnover, and the Eagles will be saying the same thing, you have to capitalize on him. Because if you don't want to be like, all right, we can just negate what happened. If he gives you an interception or a fumble, you need to get that thing and either return it or get the Cowboy offense in a prime position to score points and put pressure on Philadelphia. Now, Jalen Hurts has been fantastic when he's been trailing, but for some reason when he's been leading, his stats have not been the greatest. But it's just such a weird dichotomy. But either way, I think that's going to be where the game's won, is the Cowboys defensively keeping the Eagles out of 3rd and short and forcing Jalen Hurts to throw the long ball. I'm not saying he can't do it, but you want to make it so that you have to do that every single time. Top of that, stopping that run game. The other thing is on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys, it's really simple. You just have to continue to move the chains. Don't be afraid to pass the football and extend the field if it's given to you. And just score points. As for who I think wins this game, so far to this point, I've been correct with the Cowboys record-wise. I had them being 5-2 at this point in time. I did have them losing this game, but in the caveat that they're going to split. I'm going to say that's what happens here. I think, oh, Space, you're talking about all this and you're just not believing it. No, listen, man, it is what it is. I think that at this point in time, Philadelphia has a lot more at stake for this game. And they're going to come up and show out. And I don't think the Cowboys are going to lay down and just like not do anything. But I think that it'll be a hard-fought game where the Eagles take this matchup. But I think the Cowboys will win the next one at home. As for a score, maybe 20-16 or 20-17, something like that. It ain't going to be pretty. But if Dallas does win this game, and I think they can, I don't think that it's like impossible. If they do win this game, that would be a massive confidence boost to this team, especially with what's coming up. And you just have to do your thing, man. If you can continue to win football games, specifically this one, that shifts the pressure to Philly because, as we talked about with how the schedules unfold, Philly would need to win at least 2 of the 3 matchups before they face you again. Because if they drop 2 in the 3-game set that they have after this game, after their bye week, you are at risk of possibly making this thing spiral out of control. I don't think that's going to happen to them, but you don't want to leave the door open to that possibility. So, with that being said, I do have the Eagles winning this game. Dallas, go prove me wrong. You guys can clown me if you want. However, I'm sticking by with my record prediction. The Cowboys are on pace with how I thought they would be at this point in time. I think that if you win, you're ahead of schedule with where I thought you were supposed to be, which is great. But either way, that's where I stand. Tell me what you guys think about this matchup below, and I'll catch you guys after the game.